Welcome to the People's Podcast, an employer's resource by Group Management Services. I'm your host, Alyse Kimble.
This podcast does not constitute legal or financial advice. Its accuracy, completeness, or adequacy is not guaranteed. Use the information at your own risk. Consult an attorney or financial advisor before taking any action.
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the People's Podcast here at GMS. I am having the pleasure to sit down today with Tom McCafferty. He is a CPA and owner of Triumph CFO Services for the past 15 years. Welcome to our podcast, Tom.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you asking me to be here.
Absolutely. Well, today I really wanted to talk to business owners about tax season. It's quickly approaching. And I know a lot of business owners have a lot of questions for their CPAs when it comes to taxes. So I hope that you could kind of have a conversation with us to help clarify some of those.
No problem with that. There's, except for the accountants having to fill out all their paperwork, the 2024 tax season is over. We're already in 2025. There's, for a cash-based accounting system, there's not really anything more you can do to affect your 2024 taxes if you're on the accrual basis.
Yep.
There's always some liabilities and assets that you book or accrue as you're closing up your books and that. So they're working on getting their final numbers. Initial tax returns for corporations are due on March 15th, but I don't really know of anyone that's filed it by March 15th. They'll always go for the 6-month extension till September. And so it's more of looking at what's coming up in 2025 for taxes. And the biggest thing in 2025 is that the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was passed under Donald Trump's second year, the way that he was able to make all the numbers work is that all those tax cuts expired at the end of 2025, and some of them phasing out to 2026 and 27. But people don't realize the large amount of taxes that are going to change. Everything's kind of revert back to where it was in 2016. And I brought I couldn't memorize all of them, but I brought just a quick schedule, and it's a government summary of all the expiring provisions, but it's 13 pages long. Okay, so it's going to affect both the
Corporations and personal.
Corporations and personal. Yeah. On the personal side, you're going to be able to start adding back in some of those itemized deductions you haven't been able to use,
right,
for interest. The $10,000 on interest cap, and they'll add back in the deduction for unreimbursed business expenses, which always helped the traveling salespeople when they were driving, and then it's also going to adjust the tax rates, if I'm not mistaken on that. The standard deduction is going to go down. The personal exemptions is not really going to change. The child care history credit is going to change down. I mean, there's a lot of places where the taxes will go up, and maybe a couple places where they'll go down a little bit.
Yeah.
Now for businesses, one of the biggest things, for a C corp an S corp or LLC is that you're going to lose the exemption of income that comes from the 20% of your income that you're allowed to.
Yeah, is that pass through?
Pass through income.
Yeah, pass through tax benefits. Yes.
So you'll be losing technically right now. So Congress has to decide whether and what extent to extend these temporary provisions past 2025, yep. And judging how hard it is to sometimes get some things through Congress, be curious. It might take a while.
Yeah. Are you expecting this to be something that is at least 2025, and then maybe we see some changes in 2026?
Well, it has to be. Well, I would say it would have to be completed by the end of 2025 to be in effect for 2026.
Yeah.
But sometimes the government drags their feet, and they'll go 4 or 5 months through 2026, and then make it retroactive to the first of the year. But it just all that does is cause confusion.
Absolutely.
So the best thing to do would be to get this wrapped up and taken care of in 2025.
Gotcha. Okay. When it comes to, you mentioned the pass-through benefits, could you kind of explain those a little bit about what those are. And those needed to be, correct me if I'm wrong, filed by December 31st, correct?
The pass-through benefits.
Yeah, so the pass-through benefits, the tax, you said it was $10,000, I think it's $10,000 that they're able to, I was reading up on this, they're able to claim like up to $10,000 by state that they're doing business in. They can't be a C Corp. It has to be like S Corp ownership or something like that.
Okay, I'm like I said, I'm not really a tax guy to answer that question, but I do know that filing as an S corp, it shields some of my income when I bring that over to my personal tax return, and it's a very, very effective. And then the state of Ohio is actually even generous on top of that also. So it's a nice benefit, and I love it, and that's why I'm an S corp.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So there's different like benefits to filing certain ways.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about updates on the beneficial ownership information reporting. So you kind of put this a little bit in your notes, and I want to expand upon that. First and foremost, what is it?
It was passed in 2021, and it was it's by it's a Treasury Department group, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and what they're looking to close loopholes that allowed people to hide their ownership interest in companies, and what they're looking for is they're obviously looking for
who's the main owner, right, of the organization. You kind of have to report that.
Well, they want to just be able to track it to someone, because what they're looking for when they're washing money and or if they're doing other crimes and they're hiding the ownership behind other legal establishments, other corporations. You can bury a corporation within a corporation within a corporation if you want, and as they're burying them, they're getting down. There's very little information about it, so they want to know who owns all these companies, and they just want to know who to look for when they want some answers and some information. I've come across it a lot as Triumph CFO, and there's been many times when I had one engagement where I walked in and it's a small little company, and it does $20-25 million a year, but they had 14 S corps, and only about 4 of them are active, and the rest of them were just sitting there, and whenever they needed, they were very brilliant people that worked there, but when they needed to, they came up with another idea to try to make money, they would just grab one of these companies and go with it, and and then they would work, and it would work or it would not work, or it would phase out after 3 or 4 years, or they would sell it, but I had to go in there and figure out what was going on with all those companies, and it was fascinating. In this case, the disadvantage is that they just kept naming the same first name, and they added a number after it, so it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it was impossible to ask them questions about it because
they probably didn't even know.
They didn't even know,
right?
And so anyways, they want to find out who owns all these companies, and it's mainly just for disclosure, and it opens up who the government can look for, but
to give more clarity. Yeah, absolutely. And recently, I think there was something passed in the Texas Supreme Court where we've kind of seen a pause on this in the meantime because they ruled it unconstitutional. And so talking to some other CPAs as well, I do feel like this is something as a business owner, if you want to file it now, I think that'd be okay, right? But if you don't want to, you want to wait and see what happens, what would you advise maybe to a business owner?
Well, I don't give advice. So, but what I would suggest is that, well, Texas came in, and it's one of those things where it's another issue with dealing with the government, because this was a law that was passed in 2021, giving plenty of room for people to file by December 31st of 2024.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But Texas came in at the last minute, and they held it up. But yesterday the Supreme Court issued a ruling that took away Texas's right. They took away their injunction on it, and but then immediately, I think it was a federal court in Washington D.C. immediately took it up. So then they scheduled hearings for late March, I believe it is, and so I think it was actually FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement. They came out with a statement yesterday that people can hold off on on filing until this works its way through the court system. But the easiest thing to do would be just to file it. I looked at the form information that they're requiring. It's not, it's nothing outrageous. They just want names and addresses.
Yeah.
And if that's going to change by March 31st, you can file it and just be done with it.
Right.
But if you're like with that company I had with the 14 of them, if you have to pay someone to do it, might want to hold off on that for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we'll summarize that by saying, hey, if you want to get ahead of it, file it now. If you maybe want to talk to your CPA and ask what would be the best way to kind of approach it, if you're kind of confused, then you can hold off for a moment to file it. Let's get into, as we're nearing, filing tax season, and you said most business owners might file an extension for 6 months, but as we are nearing tax season quickly, what are maybe some of the top 5 questions that a business owner really needs to get with their CPA about?
Well, it's not so much. I didn't look at it so much as asking your CPA for tax advice because we talked about what's coming up, and I think everyone has an idea of what they want to do with your with the taxes and where and also you don't know because you don't know what Trump will be doing this Congress, what they'll feel about taxes. So I don't really have an answer, and I don't think they will really have a very good answer for you on that. So. But I looked at the question as to, what questions did you ask your accounting and even your legal professionals about what's coming up in the next year, mm-hmm. And it doesn't really have a lot to do with the taxes, but you can talk about what strategies are out there for help you reduce your taxes, and whether it's accelerating the purchase of assets or using additional research and development expenses, or even whether to buy or sell or sell yourself to a foreign company and get away from a lot of that stuff. There's things that you can do. Yeah. But there's nothing conclusively that I can offer as suggestions at this time except to ask about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would ask about. We'll just go down the list. I would ask them about how the change in interest rates is going to affect your business. If you're carrying debt or you want to take on some debt to make a purchase or an acquisition, and the professionals can work it out as to what it's going to cost you to do this, and you determine a level of interest that you're comfortable with, and then make your decisions going forward. But the question is, are they going to go up or are they going to go down? And everyone is going to say that they're going down, but I tease my family. When my wife and I married, interest rates were 15-16%, and they weren't going down. And so when you look at today's interest rates, they don't scare me for making any decision because I think they're low. But would I like them lower? Yes and no, because I'm not carrying any debt at this point in my life, and so it doesn't affect me that way. I would like higher interest rates, but I think for my family, my children, the advantages of low interest is something that they should take advantage of, and I would recommend the assumption of some debt, reasonable debt, to grow a business. There's no problem with that.
Right. Absolutely. Well, that's good. Let's talk a little bit about AI.
Yeah.
So what do business owners maybe need to know about that when it comes to this world?
I think that AI is going to probably change the world, and what we don't know about it is kind of scary right now. It's I remember the first time I played around with it, and I asked it to rewrite lyrics to a song to make it religious, actually, and excuse me. And in less than 45 seconds, it came back with something that was lyrics that were absolutely beautiful. And I was amazed at something that could happen like so fast, and it could think so well, and it could get the idea across. I think that the way that AI will grow and get better as time goes on is kind of scary now. Is it going to be Terminator scary? I don't know, but I worry about that.
Do you think it could replace a CPA in the future?
I do think that AI will start to take over a lot of the jobs in the accounting department. I think that they can control accounts payable, and they can probably control accounts receivable, mainly because they'll know what they're looking for when you get an invoice in, or they'll know what to do when you bill someone, or they'll know how to bill someone. And I think that they'll do that, and they'll also do probably customer service excellently. And there's so human touch needed for that, for the problem cases. But I think the AI will be able to take care of all that. Now, we talked earlier, on the public side, I think AI will be able to look at 10,000 transactions and look for items to help the CPA firm complete their audits and to do their due diligence, and to make sure that they're following their internal controls, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think it can expand to do a lot more.
Really?
Yeah, I think the government's going to be very involved in AI, and I think it's important for all of us to start spending some time learning it, and being aware of the risks and the pitfalls and the exposures and on a personal and on a professional level.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they're building it into everything now. Like Google has AI now. There's Microsoft products are all being sold with AI integrations.
Exactly.
So everything it's coming. It's here. It's if you're not familiar with it, I think you're gonna be left behind. So
well, if you're ignorant about it, you're going to be left behind.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
a step behind.
So cybersecurity.
That's another thing that is an issue that I would talk to my accounting and my legal professionals and my IT professionals about, because that's another thing that's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's even getting easier and easier for people to get into cyber terrorism, and I think the skill level, the brain level has to be there, but it's not. You don't have to go to college to become a cyber terrorist, and it's amazing. Even like looking at the Ukraine war, what they're doing with cybersecurity, and the way they can control other countries' computers, and the idea of a company just being able to come in and take over your accounting system and hold you for ransom for millions of dollars. I don't think that's going to go away. So, the question is, what do you have to do to what software do you need to hit the most of it, and then how can you train your employees to be aware of the risk of it, and
Be more diligent. Yes.
Yeah. So I think because that's one of those things where. Before we started talking, I joked about the penalties of messing up with the Internal Revenue Service, but I think messing up with your cybersecurity can be devastating to a company.
Absolutely.
And it's something that you have to be aware of, and you can't be afraid to go ask someone who knows a little bit more about it than you do for their help.
Absolutely. I agree with that. What uncertainties or weaknesses do you see in our business model and operation, or business model or operations? That would be a question that maybe they could ask their CPA.
That would be another question to put out to people that have an impartial or sort of impartial view of your operations and your company and your people, and to ask them what they think of your model, and what they think of it's not so much the people that you have running it, that's your choice, but the qualifications are. Do you have the right people in the right place?
Right.
In order to be successful, and I think it's important to have somebody come in that's familiar with the company and take a look at it. I don't think that's a bad idea.
Absolutely. I think it's a view from, we talked about this with Focus CFO, which is a CFO partner of ours. They came in and talked about us, about CFOs coming into a business from a consulting standpoint. What are they looking for? They're looking for people in the right seats, right?
Exactly.
That makes or tech stack, all those things really make an organization much more valuable.
Exactly.
And I love that too, from a consulting standpoint, coming into businesses and seeing like, okay, these are some things that I've noticed that might be weaknesses we can maybe attack moving forward. Wonderful. And then the last question we talked about here is, are my investments geared towards growth? So talk through that a little bit.
And that's where, to grow, it takes, one thing, you have to increase your sales to grow. And the two easiest ways to increase your sales are to, if you're a manufacturing company, is making something that's popular, to make more of them so you can sell more of them. But what people usually do is they go and they buy companies, and that's the fastest and sometimes even the cheapest way to grow.
Yeah.
And so what the assets you have, the people, the equipment, the technology you have, are you spending that money in the right manner in order to achieve your goals to keep growing?
Yeah.
And then when you look at growing, do you stay in your industry, or do you go? Do you look for maybe a industry that connects with it a little bit, or do you want to go off on another tangent? And I think you should not be afraid of doing any of those. But if you're going to go off on another tangent, I would go off on something that is very high tech. I wouldn't mess around with opening another steel plant or anything that's capital intensive. And so get some advice as to where you're spending your money, and is it going to help you achieve your goals?
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Anything else that you would like to add, just as we kind of approach this 2025 year, for business owners to really look at when it comes to their finances? Well,
I always follow the cash, so I'm a fan of Warren Buffett. And, he sleeps well with $330 billion in his bank account every night. And
he doesn't spend it either.
Well, he tries to, but I pay attention to cash coming up in the current year. The old saying is, cash pays the bills, accounts receivables do not.
Yeah.
And, so I always have that. But, I think that in business for this year, the biggest thing is still handling the migration of people back to the office.
Yeah.
And I think coming to some sort of solution with your employees that works for everyone is a goal, and communication and culture, because I really do think that a happy company makes a lot of money, and places with a bad attitude, you're not going to do well in the long run.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot of a lot of turn typically in those companies, and turnover is so expensive.
Yes.
Very, very expensive. And it really doesn't help a company move forward at all. So thank you so much, Tom.
Well, thank you for
having me. It was a pleasure
having
having you. I appreciate your time today. Thank you all for joining us again. Keep in mind, we have episode 8 coming up. We can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning into the People's Podcast. We hope you found today's discussion helpful. Stay tuned for more insights in our next episode. For more expert guidance and resources on small business management, PEOs, and more, give our podcast a follow. Find us on social media or visit us at groupmanagement.com. That's groupmgmt.com. We're dedicated to helping small businesses everywhere make their operations simpler, safer, and stronger.